Dead or alive? That's the question constantly surrounding RTS as a genre, and I'm here to say, perhaps not. A few devs are working on keeping it around, and it sort of fills me with hope for the genre as a whole. A few of note to mention: ex-Blizzard devs over at Frost Giant working on their game Stormgate, soon to release as a free-to-play, so we may check that out in the future. Along with the remake of Age of Mythologies from the guys who made Age of Empires 4 and Xbox Studios. And then finally, the one we're going over today, Tempest Rising. But before we do jump into it, I want to preface this by saying I am by no means a competitive RTS player. I prefer campaigns, skirmishes, and playing with friends. That's about it. So I'm not going to go into actions per minute or anything in that regard. What is Tempest Rising? Well, reading a little bit from their FAQ, we can get a baseline idea. According to them, Tempest Rising is a new real-time strategy game developed by Slipgate Ironworks and 2B Games in collaboration with 3D Realms. The game is taking place in a fictional 1997 war-torn world taken over by a mysterious plant which many call Tempest. Further down, it does ask, what kind of RTS is Tempest Rising? And according to the FAQ, Tempest Rising is an RTS rooted in classic RTS formulas, following the foundations set by games like Dune, Command & Conquer, StarCraft, and others. Well, we are reaching back to the roots of classic RTS games and starting with the fun moments and gameplay that have created for an enduring love for the genre, and bring along the best of what we've learned along the way to create a first-rate gameplay experience that marries the best of the old and the new, end quote. It then goes on to explain the similarities with Command & Conquer and more, which I have a link in the description if you wish to read the whole thing. So about a month ago, the devs released a temporary demo that was to run the weekend. Being an avid fan of the genre as a whole, and a friend directing me to it, I decided to check it out for myself. Starting off from the get-go, they get the vibe absolutely spot on. From the splash page to the kick-ass tunes and the overall aesthetics, it feels like stepping back into a time since forgotten. Having no knowledge of this prior to launching, I was grinning. For a moment, I was back in my parents' house, playing Red Alert on the family PC, watching the Westwood logo cross my screen as the Hellmarch groove starts up. Man, I mean, check it out. Check this first clip out that I saved.
Everyone buckled in? Location set. Stay back.
So it passes the vibe and music check. What about visuals? So visually it looks like one would expect from a modern looking RTS based heavily on Command & Conquer. I quite enjoy the direction they went with. Units that stand out without being too cartoony. Bullets, flames, and explosions not only give off a nice effect, they also sound really substantial. Cutscenes and cinematics are interesting to say the least. They still have random cutscenes from the battlefield, which is a nice touch. However, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the cutscene / dialogue tree part. So it's the use in place of the live action first person cutscenes that Red Alert had. And I see what they're trying to do, but it just feels so stiff, along with some off lip syncing that stands out from the rest of the game. I imagine that's why the majority of the characters wear a mask to cover the mouth. But this is a demo, so maybe they'll feel more important later. Gameplay. If you play any of the Command & Conquer titles, or those like it, you won't be too lost. Choose one of the two campaigns and get welcomed by an interactive cutscene. In-game, left click to do anything, right click to cancel. Even though I prefer the opposite of that Blizzard and others use, I managed. However, one thing I did have to rebind was the WASD for camera pan. It was defaulted to the arrow keys, which I guess is the normal back in the day, but most games nowadays thankfully have WASD as default. With that fixed, I was able to finally play it and get into it. Some units do have an alt fire and give a little more variety to the game. Speaking of variety, both factions seem to have their own spin. The GDI or GDF, whatever they're called, units rely on communications between units, whereas the Tempest Dynasty rely more on numbers and mobility. Or so it seems from my limited time with the game. Sadly, I didn't get to play too much. I only got around to playing through each faction once, and this being more of a preview than a review, I may remedy that at some point in the future. But as of right now, that's where it stands. Also, I do want to mention there is a third faction that is yet to be announced. but is supposed to be shown at some point post-launch. In addition to the missions, they also had some sort of upgrade tree reminiscent of the one in StarCraft 2, with missions giving you some resource to spend. I'm not quite sure how this will change the gameplay as a whole, and if it's possible to unlock all the techs in one course of the campaign, or if it's going to require multiple playthroughs. Final thoughts overall though, I have enjoyed my short time with the game, and it fills me tentatively with hope for the RTS as a whole, and barring any major changes or mishaps with launch, I may more than likely will be checking this out once full release does arrive. If you watched up until now, I want to thank you and let me know if you tried that demo and what your thoughts were. And if not, are you looking forward to it when it does release? Also, be sure to give it a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like these.